On October 5th, 2011, Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple and one of the greatest innovators of the 21st century, passed away after a long battle with pancreatic cancer. His death left an irreplaceable void in the tech world, but it also made the world reflect on the legacy he left behind. Although Jobs achieved extraordinary success, turning Apple into a global empire, his death brought forth questions about the loneliness of a man who could change the world, but not change the fate of his own life. The house where Jobs spent his final years was not one of luxury, but rather a place that reflected the simplicity of a man who dedicated his life to creativity, with humble objects, photographs, and memories of a man who struggled with his own personal battles. The house became a symbol of the silence that surrounded his final days. The achievements and innovations of Jobs were far-reaching, but in his last moments, the silence spoke louder than the applause of his lifetime. How can such a great name fade into oblivion? 2. Steve Jobs was born on February 24, 1945, in San Francisco, California. His childhood was far from perfect, marked by adoption and a lack of stability in his early years. However, his entrepreneurial spirit emerged early, and in 1976, he co-founded Apple with Steve Wozniak and Ronald Wayne, launching a revolution in personal computing with the Apple IIe and later the Apple II. Jobs became a household name and a visionary when Apple introduced the Macintosh, the first personal computer with a graphical user interface. This innovation alone changed the way people interacted with technology. But Jobs wasn't content with just revolutionizing computers. He went on to create the iPod, iPhone, and iPad, which redefined entire industries such as music, telecommunications, and computing. Apple became a symbol of innovation and design, and Jobs was regarded as one of the greatest technological pioneers of his time. However, his road to success was not without obstacles. After a series of internal conflicts at Apple, Jobs was ousted from the company in 1985, only to return in 1997 to save it from the brink of collapse. His return marked a new era for Apple, but also exposed the complex nature of his personality. A visionary, but also a man who struggled with personal relationships and often found himself isolated, even at the peak of his success. But behind the spotlight, another story was unfolding. In the final years of his life, Steve Jobs was no longer the public figure he once was. Despite still working on several projects, health problems and mental strain began to take a toll on him. Jobs withdrew from public events, spending more time at home and focusing on his work, but also dealing with the increasing burden of his illness. In 2004, Jobs was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, but he opted for alternative treatments instead of the recommended surgery. This decision, many believe, contributed to the progression of his disease. Despite his ongoing battle with illness, his creative output didn't stop. Jobs continued to work on revolutionary products like the iPhone and iPad, but his personal life became increasingly private. The house where he lived became a sanctuary for his thoughts and work, but it also became a place of solitude. Even though he was surrounded by family and colleagues, he had retreated into himself, unable to escape the looming health crisis. The man who had once been the center of attention now faced his greatest challenge alone. And this personal isolation mirrored the struggles that many creative geniuses face, acknowledging that even the most brilliant minds are not immune to the vulnerabilities of the human experience. It was in this house that silence ultimately prevailed. 4. Steve Jobs passed away on October 5th, 2011, after a long battle with pancreatic cancer. His death came quietly, without fanfare, and after years of being a public figure, he slipped away in relative silence. Despite his groundbreaking contributions to technology, his death was not marked by any grand ceremonies. Instead, it was a private affair, surrounded by close family members. A stark contrast to the life he had lived under constant public scrutiny. The world reacted to his passing with shock and sadness, but his death also highlighted the reality of being a pioneer. While you may change the world, the challenges of personal life can often be left to face alone. Jobs' death was a stark reminder of the fragility of life, even for those who have seemingly everything. In the end, the world mourned, but there was a sense of quiet reflection, as his contributions had already changed the course of history. Why so much silence around such a great name? 5. Steve Jobs left behind a massive legacy, not just in terms of financial wealth, but in the cultural and technological impact of the company he founded. The products he created, especially the iPhone, iPad, and Mac, have become staples in daily life and have revolutionized entire industries. Jobs wasn't just a CEO, he was a visionary, a creator who shaped the future. However, his legacy is not just about the products he left behind, it is also about the philosophy of design, innovation, and simplicity that he championed. Apple continues to thrive under Tim Cook's leadership, but the company is always seen through the lens of Jobs' vision. His legacy continues to influence every new generation of tech innovators, entrepreneurs, and creatives. But the question remains, is his legacy only about his inventions, or does it also include the way he impacted the world on a deeper level? Can we really own what escapes us after death? 6. The life of Steve Jobs was a journey of creativity, innovation, and loneliness. He changed the world, but his personal life was marked by struggles that even his genius couldn't overcome. Jobs was a pioneer, someone who pushed the boundaries of what was possible, but he was also a man who had to face the inevitable challenges of illness and isolation. His legacy, however, is undeniable. The world Jobs helped shape continues to thrive, and his products will remain integral parts of our lives for generations to come. But his life also teaches us a profound lesson about the balance between brilliance and human frailty. Even the greatest minds cannot escape the complexities of the human condition. True legacy is not what we possess, but what we leave in the hearts of others. Who will still remember him? And if true wealth is the memory we leave in others' hearts, silence does not kill memory, it purifies it.